things that the public only catches a glimpse of but never really fully sees. The trait which sets Rob really apart is his knack for shepherding the city through matters of crisis. As Rob likes to remind us, first month at Corporation Council was the Superblock decision, which instructed us to pay a former property owner $20 million in damages, the revelation that iStar was seeking a $128 million pilot, and the fire department restructure. And 1 month later, the Haberman default judgment decision. These intractable problems have plagued the city for generations, and each of them seemed to come to a head right when Rob became Corporation Counsel. It was his job to steer us through these things and handle his regular assistant Corporation Counsel caseload because he hadn't yet replaced himself. Although we can't really discuss each as much as I'd like to for obvious legal implications, but it's important to highlight Rob's contributions. I just have a couple more, so please bear with me. As many of you know, the city recently notched a pivotal victory in the iStar litigation. Through cases handled exclusively by Corporation Counsel, the CDA's decision to rescind iStar's building permit was upheld. Now iStar is in a position on their $100 million lawsuit against the city where they need to show damages on a project that they're no longer permitted to build. That's not to say the litigation is over. However, what the public may not realize is this decision is the end result of a contingency plan that Rob developed in 2015. In the event things went sideways with iStar's pilot, which, as we know, did. So on one hand, Rob was tasked with trying to reduce the mammoth size and scope of the pilot without killing the project altogether. His planning and legal defense in case it didn't work out. Excuse me. And because of several other tactical maneuvers, things have taken a very different turn, and we're expecting more positive developments in the near future. Then there are other things I mentioned, such as the fire department restructuring. It's probably not a secret that Rob ran point on this project as well. And here's how it ultimately turned out. The city followed through with changing the nature and composition of the department. We now have internal pre-deployed paramedics who run the first two ambulance and who have decreased the city's initial EMT response time for the first two ambulance to under 5 minutes. That's a remarkable accomplishment. We've also added a layer of paramedic protection by incorporating the free backup services through South Nassau Community Hospital, all the while, perhaps most remarkably, since the fire department was restructured in 2015, it is the only department in the city that operates, its operating expenses has decreased year after year. While healthcare and pension contributions continue to skyrocket, that department is the only one where expenses has decreased. And we thank the fire department for working with us to attain those savings for the community. There's not much I can say about the Haberman litigation, as the damages trial is currently scheduled for the spring. Suffice it to say that Rob has been fighting his way off the ropes ever since he inherited the matter when he became Corporation Counsel. Through that span, he's absorbed the blows, but has gradually battled back to the point where the city has actually been able to land some considerable punches in recent months. This is due to a reevaluation of legal strategy, which Rob has spearheaded, along with the contributions of the city's experts, which took approximately 6 months to find and retain. Of all the legal matters affecting the city, this one is obviously the most immediate and pressing, and things are evolving very quickly. What I can say is that the council knows the action plan, and that the city has been put in the best possible position to emerge from this case in a manner that is designed to assure our viability as a city. There's also some jury trial stuff that Rob spearheaded that Councilwoman Diamond had wanted to discuss.
Sure. Earlier we mentioned a number of different cases that Rob has worked on in his capacity as Corporation Counsel or Assistant Corporation Counsel. But often Rob is called upon to defend the actions of our employees, whether it be our police or other employees who act in their capacity as members of our workforce. In November 2016, Rob represented the city in a federal jury trial. This was a police false arrest and excessive force case where the city was forced to admit going into the trial that it had unfortunately mistakenly arrested the incorrect person. The exposure to the city in this case was estimated to be anywhere between 1.5 million on the low end and 3 million on the higher end. And here's what's happened. The city won its first complete jury verdict in a generation. The verdict was groundbreaking in another way as well. It was the first time the city in its history had a city corporation counsel try a case through the entire litigation through to verdict. It also bears mentioning that his adversary was probably one of the best well-known civil rights attorneys in Long Island. I can only describe Rob's efforts on this matter as a result as it speaks for itself. I would just say that his ability to juggle this jury verdict trial, which all the attorneys in the room know is no easy task. This while not letting anything slip through the office and any of the other cases or matters fall behind and never missed a beat. Shortly before this jury verdict, earlier that same year, Rob helped to recover millions of dollars in back taxes during the Allegria auction, and we're thrilled to say that the hotel is finally current and up to date. More impressively, however, Rob managed to achieve something truly extraordinary that year. He figured out a way to recover millions from Nassau County in arrears on the Lido Sewer District without engaging the county in litigation or any other municipality. Rob remains steadfast in his belief that the city must avoid suing another municipality or government agency except as a measure of last resort, and that has been his approach to cases up until today. He recognized the city's long-term interest in intergovernmental collaboration, which you see in a number of programs and projects that we have undertaken over the last few years. On the other hand, he also understands that the city cannot be taken advantage of in its dealings with other municipalities. So how does he make those two policies ends meet? In this case, he waited for the county to need the city for something. The county needed the city to enter into the first draft of an intermunicipal agreement on the sewer consolidation project, which we've talked about a number of times, and President Aramo just recently discussed. In other words, he held this intermunicipal agreement out as a carrot and made the county reimburse the city before entering into another draft intermunicipal agreement. Considering the level of pressure that both the county and the city received with respect to this project, as it was a massive project and a regional project, this was pretty astute that accomplished two major goals simultaneously. This is a great example of the subtle, effective advocacy that the public doesn't necessarily see, but from which the city benefits greatly on a daily basis in some of these large-scale projects. I'll just send it back to you.
Thank you. No, not the insurance program. Thank you. Lastly, we need to discuss Rob's efforts after Superstorm Sandy. It's easy to see and therefore appreciate the contributions of our first responders. It's not as easy, however, to see what the attorneys are doing behind the scenes. In this case, because of what the other attorneys were dealing with in his office, Rob was assigned to handle the city's insurance claim against this property carrier. What Rob did was work literally around the clock to assemble a team of experts led by him to evaluate over 40 city properties, which was an overwhelming task. The end result was the full payment of the policy's flood of $10 million within 30 days of the storm. Now, 6 years later, we all know what it's like to deal with huge property claims against insurance carriers. In the time frame of which Rob managed to achieve this victory was incredible, especially considering that Rob does not practice in the field. He has to learn on the fly and, more importantly, figure out how to deploy it. I can't overstate the importance of this cash infusion, which literally kept the lights on until help started to arrive from the state and federal government. This is the money we use as a down payment on all the other cleanup and repair contracts. We could not have done it without this cash. Relatedly, something I know Rob considers among his professional highlights is a separate lawsuit that he commenced against the carrier for business interruption costs, a claim which the carrier initially denied. Before bringing the suit, Rob actually shopped the case around to several law firms, none of which expressed interest because they didn't see the value in taking it on contingency. But Rob insisted that there was ambiguity in the policy and could be exploited, and decided to handle it internally. Suffice it to say, about 2 years into the case, the city recovered an additional $800,000, and I think the reason why Rob likes to highlight that is because he saw value when no one else did. And as we all know, he was right. There's also now a immensely popular sewer lateral program, which was triggered by the federal lawsuit that was projected to cost the city between $7 and $10 million in fines. It certainly wasn't popular at the time, but it is now. The case has settled for $0, and now people have a program which Rob rolled out in which they can opt out at any given year. Put differently, he replaced the tax increase with an optional fee, which also helps to clean out our waterways and reduce sewage treatment costs. In fact, our treatment has been reduced by nearly 20% in the last several years because of various cities' initiatives, the sewer lateral program among them. The sewer lateral program provides a good segue to highlight the recurring theme of Rob's employment. He plays the long game. He understands that broad initiatives may be unpopular at first, and he has been willing to shoulder the criticisms when he feels that the long-term benefits justify the short-term headaches. So many of the situations that I've discussed and Councilwoman Diamond discussed today were either misunderstood or widely unpopular when Rob started working on them. However, he prioritizes a few key objectives, the most important things, and somehow manages to land the plane every single time. And that's no small feat. He disdains fluff. He focuses on projects and problems that stand to make a meaningful difference in people's lives. We're confident, I'm confident, that approach, because of the results we've seen. That's why we're also confident that he's the right person for the job. He has been here for 12 years. He has spent more time in this building than anyone, probably except possibly Commissioner Tagny, but retains objectivity to run the city and make the right decisions. He certainly has my support. So I tried to make it as short as I could, but unfortunately I couldn't because his list of accomplishments of what he's done for the city goes on and on and on. And I think having most of the city workforce here tonight speaks volumes. So with that, I'll take, unless any council member wishes to speak, I'll take public comment.
Questions? Sorry? Hear me? Okay. Why did all the council members not meet together to discuss this?
We've all met privately with Rob.
Was that the way we conducted the process?